call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on our agenda is our weekly commission reports, and so I will ask Commissioner Moore if he has some reports to give.
I have, let's see, tomorrow morning I have an Oakland Bay Clean Water Advisory Board meeting, and that is all this week. However, I would like for everyone to notice the volunteers are cleaning up the railroad tracks out by Knight's Landing, so that's been an ongoing job, and people are working really hard on that. So
Where is that?
it's like maybe about 12th Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are they doing that all day, all week?
They've been doing it for the last week, every day. I can't believe it. They're doing great work.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner McDowell.
I have it on. Okay. I had my left board meeting this morning. Thursday, I have weekly briefing with Brian, and Friday, I'm attending the wellness clinic here at the city. That's my week.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow, I'm planning to attend lunch at a cafe downtown that we kind of have for public. Once a month, we have a little go and support local restaurants and things, and
I
so
will be there as well.
I didn't know if I should name the name. I don't know.
I will try and be there.
Can we name the name? Is that okay? Or so it's Nita's Cafe this month, I guess, and so city is trying to support a lot of local businesses and things, and so I plan to eat lunch at Nita's. Thursday's a staff briefing. Friday, I will be attending a customer service barbecue out at the Hood Canal Telephone Company event out there in Union, and then Saturday I will be attending a fundraiser at Zen's. And I think it's mainly money to raise for a charity that she is involved in Vietnam with. And so those are our commission reports for this week. And next would be the general public comment period on general things. And then there is some action items tonight. And so if you have something to say on an action item, please hold your comment until that item, and then we will talk about that then. So is there any comments that we want tonight for general public comment?
At this time, we do not have anybody. Are you?
I just got here and haven't filled out my card,
Okay.
but I'm gonna ask if this is the appropriate time. Is Mark Ziegler here?
He's over there.
Okay, so I'm Erica from the South Carolina Tribe. Is this the appropriate time to talk, or is it later?
You should have a special spot on our little agenda, and so I think this would be a great time to have you come and talk. Is that okay? Does that sound proper?
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't even know if you're representing the Squaxin tribe, right?
Yes.
Well, then I don't even know that you got to sign in.
You do not.
Come on up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Sorry, you're first out of the chute.
That's okay, and I'm gonna. Okay, so I'm Erica Marbet. I'm the hydrologist for the Squaxin Island tribe, and I've been emailing with Mark Ziegler and Jason Dose. I think I walked through a cobweb when I came in here. Okay, and so I'm about to submit a proposal to the Bureau of Indian Affairs for funding the Mason County groundwater model and the Johns and Goldsboro Creek groundwater model. And I don't know how much you guys know about that, but the Johns and Goldsboro groundwater model exists today, and we've used it to analyze some of the impacts of future land use on Goldsboro Creek and Johns Creek. And Mark heard a little bit about that, and we briefed your previous staff, which would be Steve Goins and Mike Michaels, but they've moved on, and so we do need to have more communication about that, about the model as it exists today. But I'm submitting to funding to Bureau of Indian Affairs to improve that model. Furthermore, outside the model, there's a beginning effort by U.S. Geological Survey to do a groundwater model for the whole county. And we've been working, the tribe's been working collaboratively with Mason Conservation District and a bunch of other entities, including PUD1, to build this model and use the science of the model to inform our future land use planning. I'm here today to ask if you guys are interested in supporting the model, in writing a letter of support to BIA so that when I submit this proposal, I may submit your letter of support. Do you have any questions?
The question I would have is that, what is your deadline for us to, we're going to submit, you want us to submit a letter, and when is that deadline?
Okay, and the deadline is like 2 days from now.
Oh, 2 days from
I
now.
apologize.
Oh.
I apologize for the sequence of events. My colleague Candace was here for another grant, and she did a lot better with her timing, and I have done poorly. So if we don't make the window, it's okay.
Well,
but-
let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
I've already personally okayed that,
Okay,
because I've had my meeting with our city manager
okay,
about this, and I don't have no idea about my fellow commissioners if they had heard about this or know about this, but I personally am okay. So,
okay.
to follow the rules, City Manager Ryan Wheaton, had we gotten
I had
okay?
a conversation with all three of you and got an affirmative response from all three.
There you go.
Okay,
Affirmative.
So
great.
I guess it's up to staff to draw up the letter and us to sign it.
okay, that's excellent. So should I stay in touch with Mark then about it, or?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Well, I really appreciate it, and I will share, I expect to share the results with you. USGS will take a long time, years, but Johns Goldsboro we have working, and I look forward to talking with you guys about that when I can. So, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
out. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erica.
All right, I'll email you. Thank you.
All right. Next would be no public comment other than that one. Come on. Okay. Next would be our consent agenda. Are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
I am.
If so, could we please have that?
Yes, vouchers numbered 15334 through 15417 in the amount of $258,944.05. And then we have the approval of minutes for the business meeting of July 17th, 2017, study session of July 24th, 2017, special meeting of July 26th, 2017, and study session of July 31st, 2017.
I move we approve the minutes of the consent agenda as presented.
And I will second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. All right. Next is we are entering into the action item part to our meeting, and we have looks like two items on that. And the first will be about an interlocal agreement, and it looks like our city manager, Ryan Wheaton, will talk to us about that.
To you last week regarding our interlocal for the Forks jail contract that we have. Nothing's changed in here. The rate's still the same as was presented last week, which is the same rate now, $47.47 per person per day, with one addition that she mentioned last week, which is a good thing for us. It's a flat rate for transportation, $5, which is probably the best.
Pretty reasonable. Moped.
That is the best.
So what we're asking for today is for the three of you to vote on this after you take public comment and move forward with the mayor signing this ILA.
All right, so if there's anybody from the public that wants to weigh in on this jail interlocal agreement, please state your name and come forward and fill out the card at this time. If no one is doing that, then what we need to do is just say how we feel about it, and I feel I was in favor of it last time we talked. Is there any other further comments or questions about this issue? Okay, so I guess I would be entertaining a motion.
I will make the motion to accept the interlocal agreement and authorize the mayor to sign the ILA on behalf of the city of Shelton.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2 is our fee schedule update, and it looks like our city manager is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We're bringing forward the fee schedule update based on option 2, or option B, excuse me, that was directed to staff last week. So what you see in front of you is the fee schedule with those changes identified in the information that we've briefed on for the past couple months. If you have any questions, we can certainly answer those for you now. Otherwise, we're asking that you move forward and vote on the plan that was proposed and accepted last week.
Okay, so I know there's a few people from the public may want to speak about that. Maybe we'd entertain their comments first, then we could talk about it, and then we could vote. So it's an action item.
Do you
So
want, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
do you want to take a motion first before?
take the motion and then, take a motion and then have the public comment?
If you're, otherwise, I'm not sure if you normally don't take it unless you're actually going to vote. I'm not
I
sure
would
if you-
like to listen to the public.
I think the public comment would be beneficial. So at this point, I think if there's anybody who'd like to talk about this fee schedule update, that this would be the opportunity, but you'd have to come and sign in, and so we have sign-up cards, and we have a letter that's to be read into the record, so,
I would just like to say that I would actually have preferred for this one to take the vote, to make the motion first, but obviously I'm outvoted on this one.
we just never done it that way before, I don't think.
Well, we do it that way sometimes and the other way sometimes.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I guess I'm sharing the meeting, so I would choose to hear the public comment first. All right,
We have Marilyn Vogler.
okay?
Good evening, Marilyn Vogler, 420 East Poplar. I have two concerns about the fee schedule and renewal program. In the first place, I was highly supportive of reducing the fees back in 2015-16, whenever it was you reduced them, and I remain so. But at that time, it was both inevitable and predictable that Sierra Pacific, which is a private multi-million-dollar corporation, would be requesting a lot of fees, and we could a lot of permits, and we could predict that we would lose money on that venture. I think it's unfortunate that we're at a time right now when it is both predictable and inevitable that our public school system will be requesting a lot of permits for the upgrades and building that they're going to be doing. This is not private money from a multi-million-dollar corporation. This is public money out of the taxpayers' pockets, and the fact that you would consider raising the fees to the old level at this point is really disturbing. My second point has to do with the renewal program. There was a lot of discussion last week about how this might benefit affordability of our housing. And Commissioner Moore posted a lovely video to Facebook about a tiny home project in Detroit.
On my personal Facebook page.
Okay, I didn't. It was yours. With a comment that this was a possibility for the renewal program. And yet, I've read that very brief description of the renewal program. There is absolutely no indication there is any incentive for affordable housing, that the stock plans might include tiny or very small homes, that it will encourage multifamily housing, which is generally more affordable than single-family homes, and in addition, the fact that you're supporting demolition by paying part of the disposal fee encourages people to tear down homes that might be rehabilitated and become affordable. And so I would suggest if you have to increase the fees, do so by a small amount, 10, 15%, 20%. I would suggest you hold off on the renewal program, refer that possibly to SPAT or to public discussion about how it might be tuned to create more affordable and low-income housing for the community, which we desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
We have Heidi McCutcheon.
I have a letter for you.
You have a letter, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Heidi McCutcheon, 215 West Railroad Avenue of Shelton Mason County Chamber of Commerce. I have a letter here from the Chamber Board of Trustees as well as the Mason County Chapter of Olympia Master Builders. We are thrilled with some of the innovative ideas you're considering with regards to building permit fees. As a general principle, we don't support an increase in building fees. However, when you pair the building fee increase with an innovative plan such as the renewal program, we recognize that there is great potential. As you know, the Chamber has worked with a broad range of stakeholders to create a vision for downtown Shelton, partnering with the City of Shelton to bring that vision to life. We see a direct correlation between the Visioning Project's goal of strengthening our downtown core and of implementing a renewal program for select residential and commercial properties. We appreciate that the select properties are those that are dormant, vacant, bank-owned, or in a state of abatement. We believe that effectively waiving the permit fees to rehabilitate and clean up these properties is an incredible incentive for property owners, while also strengthening the economic value of neighboring properties. Of the builders who have built within the city limits since the rate decrease, all but one have acknowledged that the decreased fees influenced their decision. In a time when real estate prices and construction continues to increase across the Pacific Northwest, we are hesitant for you to increase building fees to meet with the 2015 rates. We fear a 100% increase in fees is such a drastic step that it would stall the current uptick of construction. Rather, we urge you to gently increase those fees with no more than a 25% increase of the current fee structure. It is our position that it takes a step towards stabilizing the city's in-house cost while relieving builders and developers of the full burden of the renewal program. We encourage you to ensure that any fee increases are applied equally and consistently without large jumps or dramatic increases. We respectfully request that you consider adopting a fee increase of no more than 25% in conjunction with the renewal program. We believe this inventive strategy will enhance our mutual interest in a vibrant downtown for the future. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Christy Buck.
Not sure I'm completely prepared to speak. Christy Buck from John L. Scott, 306 West Railroad.
Oh, you always are.
Well, I spoke last meeting about the fees, and I'm not exactly sure what option B is. Can you give me a quick rundown on what the one you've got them in front of them? I tried to read the 59-page report that you got, but do you guys have a?
We have a couple
I think our
pages.
city manager could probably describe it better than I could, because he's probably got it there in front of him.
I don't have it in front of me. You want me
Okay.
to explain what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, if you can just give me a brief synopsis of it? Or are you going to do a presentation in a minute about it?
I am not. We did that the last 3 months.
Okay, all right,
So
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
So I guess I'm not really prepared to speak, because you guys all knew what I feel about, I think the fees, reverting them to 2015 is way too high. I think you guys did a great loss leader program of having people give them a break on fees that you knew were costing you money, but look what it did. It got people in the door in Shelton. It got you, whatever, 20 more homes, long-term going to be taxpayers and people that buy things and work in this community, and live in this community. So I think that you pretty much have what I feel about that. The program of trying to help out with places that are derelict, the little bit I know about it, I think that that's a neat thing for you guys to pursue, and it is innovative. So that's, I guess, about all I can say.
I wasn't here last time when you spoke, and I watched the recording of it. You had mentioned that you had 5 people that were interested in buying properties when we were talking about the fee reduction. How many of those homes got built?
Well, I sold 5 properties that built houses on all 5.
They built on all
As
5?
far as I know, yeah, I didn't follow up with everybody, but they were all anticipating to do that immediately.
And they were in
So-
the city?
They were, yeah, every one of them.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you. Sorry I
comments.
wasn't better.
That's all right.
And now we have Randy Lewis.
Hi, everybody. Randy Lewis. Wanted to talk about the proposed option A and option B. I don't personally believe these are the 2 best options available, as the mayor mentioned last week. I thought the mayor was spot on with his comments. Choose option A with the best parts of option B. In my humble opinion, the best part of option B is a zero renewal program. Maybe modified provide incentives for what Marilyn was talking about with the affordable housing and small houses. Option B proposal embeds two flawed assumptions. One, the zero renewal program will cost the city money that must be made up elsewhere. The fees to tear down the old buildings and build new ones are revenues that would not have come anyway. As Commissioner McDowell has publicly stated, you cannot lose revenue you would not have gotten in the first place. There is economic benefit to the city from someone else paying to tear down the building. Last week's staff estimate to tear down a house seems low to me. I don't pretend to be an expert, but it didn't seem like it included all resources, for example, labor. It cost our family $30,000 to tear down a house. This building can then be taken out of the city abatement program, reducing cost and resources. Now you have an empty lot you do not have to deal with. Any new building expense to the city on that lot will be dwarfed by the value of future utility and tax revenue in perpetuity. The second flawed assumption is that the best way to make up lost revenue is to restore the fees to 2015 levels. I'm afraid some of my friends assume that increased rates always equals increased revenue. Not true. There's more moving parts than just the rate itself. This is not always true, as has been proven over and over, including with last year's fee reduction. To those who say, let's try the 2015 rates and see what happens, we say, guess what? They've already been tried for many years, and it was a miserable failure. 1 year ago, the city says, hey, let's lower the fees and see if it works. Now there's a proposal, hey, lowering the fees was a great success, therefore, let's go back to the old fees. As probably has been said, there is already feedback from builders that plans to build will stop if the fees go to 2015 levels. Personally, I would leave them all alone, but I do like the, quote, average 20% fee schedule, because it appears that except for traffic impact fee, the fees that are left alone are ones that impact new building only, not renewals, where maybe an increase in fees will generate more revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mike Olson. According to what I've gathered before Steve Goins left, he was a prior city planner, as we were discussing this, he did a study where the net impact, the net revenue from each new house built in the city through property taxes, excise taxes, and sales tax was about $1,500. So you lost approximately $80,000 when SPI built down there and lost revenue. So the 24 houses that were built certainly did not make up for that lost revenue. Their total cost of that project, I believe, was in the $5 or $6 million range. The schools are going to be at a $60 million range. Their fees and impact fees and permit fees are already built into those cost estimates. So even though it is taxpayer money, they've already built that into their cost projections. So, do the math. You're going from maybe a $10 million project to a $60 million project. You're looking at losing $250,000. That's going to be on you guys' feet when it comes out in the public that you guys had the chance and you squandered that. You're also looking at an expansion of the UGA, which everybody knows we don't make money off houses. It's businesses, it's industry that needs to be brought into the community to up our tax, the amount of taxes we can collect. That's where your revenue is generated. If you don't keep these fees in and collect these fees, you're going to have no money to assist with the UGA expansion to bring in these companies and these industries to develop jobs here. New houses is not going to save our county or our city. This is just a little bit of a political game that's being played with somebody's personal philosophies. And I think you're making a big mistake, and I was encouraged last week, if you stick with Plan B, that it's at least a step in that direction for the future, not just a short-term 1 year, 6-month fix of a few more new houses. So I urge you to stick with Plan B. I think it's the right move for the future of the city.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
No, that's it? Nope. We have Andrew Spear.
Hi, Andrew Spear. Just want to go on record, I guess, for supporting, maybe up to a 20% rate increase going back to 2015 doesn't really fit our community, and the staff, I think, had prepared some fee schedules, and the 20%, I think, puts us kind of in alignment with Aberdeen and Chehalis and some of the areas around that have similar economies and whatnot. So just appreciate what's been done to try to encourage growth here, and want to try to keep it up and see more growth happen. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question, Andrew. How many homes did you build in the city during the fee reduction?
I didn't build any, so I haven't benefited from it. I've just seen the economy, and my focus has been different, and so.
So you built like in the county instead, or other cities?
Yeah, I've been custom building, and my son's getting into the excavation side of things, so I've been supporting him in that, and so my focus has kind of changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
That's it? And we had one letter, I believe, to be read into the public record.
Yes, and I believe you all three have copies of the
Yes.
letter.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that it needs to be read into record.
We always have, but I don't know. Have we changed in having letters read into the record?
We've only done that if the author of the letter specifically requests it.
He did, and I gave it to you.
I had received one.
That's, I can read it. Do you want me to read it?
It's
I'll be happy to. Okay, this letter is addressed to me, but my fellow commissioners also got a letter. And this was a builder that built houses in the city of Shelton. Okay. It says, I'm writing to urge you to take my comments into consideration before making a final decision on changes to the permitting and general facilities fees as they pertain to single-family residences construction. Inarguably, the reduction in fees that took effect some 16 months ago has indeed spurred speculative single-family residence building. The impressive increase in number of single-family permits speaks for itself. However, a return to the 2015 fee levels this time, will, without a doubt, reduce the number of single-family resident permits being applied for, and I believe it will do so significantly. I will attempt to explain why. First, before a builder makes the decision to build a home on speculation, all costs must be considered. The building permits, fees, the lot, utility hookups, cost of labor, materials, so on, and then the potential sales price of the finished home. Directed solely by the market, local market, must allow for a significant return on the builder's time and efforts to warrant taking the time and risk of building on speculation. Otherwise, there is no point in starting the project. Since the current fee reductions have taken in effect 16 months ago, the following has changed. The PUD has now assessing an additional $1,700 extension fee for a single-family home. Roof truss components have increased a full 100% due to new engineering and wind load requirements. That equates to an increase of $2,600 for an average size spec home. In April of this year, the United States imposed a tariff of up to 24% on Canadian lumber manufacturers. While there are many American companies manufacturing dimensional lumber, virtually all of the oriented strand board, OSB, that is used here in the Northwest, these are those 4x8 panels that we use on exterior walls. It comes from Canada. The cost of OSB has increased 88% in just the past 12 months, another $1,200 increase. The cost of insulation increases 8% in September alone. I could go on, but I hope I've made my point. The construction process is dynamic, not static. This isn't 2015 anymore, and above increases coupled with the return of the 2015 fee structure would strongly affect a builder's decision to take the risk of building a spec home. To be fair, the local home market has indeed improved, but we are nowhere near the markets being employed in Thurston, Pierce, and other counties. Could single-family builders absorb a 20% increase in city fees? Yes, we probably could if we keep our pencils sharp. However, to be blunt, the return to the 2015 level at this time would cut us off at the knees. Now I understand that there is also a commercial component to your decision. Commercial builders are just as needed as we are, but let me say that the single-family spec builders are hardly in the same league as huge outfits like SBI, Hall Equities, National Builders, and that bid on schools and other major projects. If the commission is wanting to be fair by raising fees by the same percentage for commercial and residential builders alike, then I must ask, to whom are you being fair to? To the outfit that's already noticed the line item increase in a large project, or to whom the increase makes the difference as to whether we undertake a spec home project? Perhaps these two types of builders should be considered separately. I did not write this. This is from a local builder that built this last year. And if there's any other public comment, now would be an opportunity to bring it forward. And seeing none, we have an opportunity to weigh in on this. But we can actually vote and then talk about it, I guess.
We can't vote, we make a motion.
Yeah, well.
I'll make a motion.
Sure, we can make a motion.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's input. And I was a little bit surprised that we didn't get the list of the properties for the option B, because Kathy and I both directed that that would be the option that we wanted the fee schedule and the information on this week. Did it just take longer to get the properties evaluated?
The process is probably going to not having enough people to divert to this, is that we wanted to actually get a decision before it was made. We did a cursory look again at the list we put together. We still feel confident that the amount that we gave you is where we'll be. But in all honesty, we didn't want to divert two people to this without getting a vote, because we wanted it to be in name.
Okay. Well, and I do have some questions for, I suppose I'll make the motion and then we can ask the questions.
Yeah, we'll do a motion in a second, then we'll talk about it.
Okay. Let's see, I move to adopt resolution number 1107-0917, setting the city fee schedule and to set the 2018 building fee schedule. It doesn't say anything in this motion about option B. Do we need to say something about the renewal program?
It's in the...
It's in the, okay, so that is my motion.
Okay. Now, what we'll do is we'll take a second. We will not vote. We will then open it up for discussion amongst ourselves. So is there a second to that motion? I will second it. Okay. So there's a motion and a second to approve this. Any further discussion? I would say that...
Yes, further discussion.
Yeah, now is the time for further discussion. And I would just say that this 20% increase, in my opinion, is a compromise. I think we will actually, the 20%, now, let's speak on the motion before us, okay? Going to 2015 rates, I really believe, is a huge, huge mistake. And so I've said over the past 3 or 4 months through many opportunities that I thought it was a mistake, and I will vote that it is a mistake. Because it's just, we've just started down a road of trying to get our community working again. And so what I can do on this, I will vote against this motion, and I'm speaking for the same reasons that a lot of people brought up, that we just experienced a very wonderful year where the building department actually received more money back to it than it had for a long time, because more people were active in their building permits, and almost to the tune, it was only like 15,000 that the general fund had to pay back. So I think we had a good run of success, and I think that can continue. But I think, as has been pointed out, and pointed out in my conversations in the community, that the 2015 levels of $18,000 in fees to build on a single-family lot would be an extreme jump, and we just jumped out of there. Why would we jump back? And so I've said this several times. I do sympathize with staff in this. I sympathize with them through this difficult process of continually bringing options to us and us taking a lot longer than we probably should to make decisions, and I concede to that. But I am firm in what I believe, and I will entertain my thought on what we could do after this. But for me speaking to this, I would not support this motion. So.
Okay. Kathy, do you want to go first, or shall
I do. I'm going to read this, because I always say I'm going to forget what I'm going to say, so I write it down so I get every point in. I want to make very, very, very clear that nobody has influenced my decision on either side, whether adopting back on the 2015 fees and going forward with a new renewal program, or raising the fees 20%. This has been my decision, and after all said and done, I don't want people to say, someone got to her and changed her mind. Nobody changed my mind. I changed my mind for what I'm going to say. So, at one point, I believed the option B was good, but I started talking to individuals and getting their thoughts on it. Both sides shared why option A would work and why option B would work. And I studied it a lot, both sides. And I tell you, I talked to a majority of the people in this room on this subject, so I got feedback on everybody. Let me explain myself. It would be awesome to have 0 fees for a renewal program and revive this city. We would get empty lots bought, new houses would be built, and neighborhoods would be cleaned up. But I am not comfortable, after I've thought about it and talked to people, I am not comfortable with going back to the 2015 rates, the fees. The raising of the fees back up for option B is to subsidize the 0 fees for this renewal program. So I'm thinking, we don't know yet if anybody would even grab a 2015 fee, 18,000 plus. We don't know that for sure. But we may have people that come in and want to do the renewal program. So we're still subsidizing that program on a hope that someone would build a few houses at the 2015 level. But we're still trying to get back on our feet from a very difficult time called the recession. None of us can say the building none of us can say the building spikes was due to lower fees or it happened because our economy was improving. I believe a bit of both. So what I would like to see at this point, we raised the building fees 20% as of January 1st, 2018. We study the progress each month, and I'm going to be really strict on this. I want to report every month how it's going. For the first 6 months, we look to see if the building fees are continuing to work well with the building of new homes and businesses. If we see a continued climb in building permits for new homes and businesses, then we will continue close monitoring this. If there is no continuous substantial growth in new homes and business at the 6-month level, we then can go back and seriously consider the renewal program with some different ways of getting it. I'll be looking very closely to these next few months to see how many builders come in for permits for single-family living or building a new business. We all want new housing, also a great, thriving town. We can have both if we work hard to produce this. And I just wrote some bullet points down. We need to wait on the 2018 budget to see if this renewal program would work financially for this program. We don't know what the budget would say. Let's wait for the 2018 budget to see if we can do this incentive program. We do not know what the budget is for 2018 to sustain the renewable program, even if we charge the 2015 fees. I would like to put together a committee of community leaders and business owners and builders and put them together to maybe come up with an incentive program that the city staff has not thought of. We have 3 months that we can do that. I feel the jump back to the 2015 fees is too big of a jump. I love the renewal program, but not the 2015 building fees. If we were to go back to the 2015 building fees, why do you need to bring, well, here's a question for Craig. If we went back to the 2015 fees, why do we have to eliminate the water and sewer hookup that you had said that you were going to have the contractor work? And we wouldn't be in charge. Am I right on that, or am I wrong?
I didn't understand the question.
Well, a few weeks ago, you said you were going to start having the contractor of a house or building do the hookup for water and sewer, and that you would just oversee it. You would not, the city would not be doing the hookup anymore. Is that right?
The three of you passed that.
Right.
2 weeks back.
So I'm thinking, why, if we go back to the 2015 fees, why would we re-implement that part into it, bringing it in? It says here.
We wouldn't. As I mentioned to you on Thursday, that was an error on those two components. So that,
Okay.
we were directed about 2 months ago to fix an issue that came from the reduction. That issue was that anybody, are we past the point?
This week, I believe.
So we had an issue with water connections, and we were essentially doing the work out of the water department's, out of their budget that was not planned. And we had one come in recently that is going to likely cost us $10,000 to do. So that was an oversight that was corrected by you guys a couple weeks ago.
So for if we were to go back to 2015 fees, there would not be a charge from the city would not do the hookup? That would be the contractor that would have that, do the hookup on that?
It's a contractor fee.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So, right at this time, I'm not comfortable with putting the fees way back up to 2015. I would like to, we have 3 months. I want to see how many more builders come in the 3 months to grab these prices before they even go up 20%. Then I want to know who comes in after the first of the year. And I would like to get together a program that we can figure out an incentive program to do the lots and the houses and whatever in the city. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay?
Oh, good, it's my turn. First of all, I would like to say that I'm really disappointed in Commissioner McDowell. She was very, very clear last week and had very clear reasons as to why she supported option B. I don't believe it is a clear decision that you haven't been swayed one way or another. Obviously, the mayor had prior knowledge of this. Thus, the champions in the audience, I believe, were set up to champion the mayor's
You
feelings
borderline
about this.
personal attacks, and I don't like it.
Good, I'll
I'll
stop.
just tell you right now.
I'll stop.
Why don't you just say what you want?
I am
Explain-
saying
explain,
exactly
but-
what I
but when
want.
you're
May I
attacking-
speak?
No, because you're attacking, and we don't like that.
I am disappointed in you.
You can be
I
all
am
you want.
disappointed in Commissioner McDowell.
That's
Let me
fine,
speak.
but don't insult people.
I'm insulted right now.
Well, I'm sorry about that, because you
Okay,
didn't get it from
my
me.
turn.
Absolutely.
So I'm just really disappointed. This definitely appears that the mayor had prior knowledge of what the outcome of this was going to be. I didn't say I know that. I say it appears. I don't think there's anybody here that wouldn't agree with me. So especially given Commissioner McDowell's comments last time and your comments last time and your prepared statement last time and Commissioner McDowell's prepared statement this time. So, and now I will get to the issue. Number one, I have a number of issues here. The numbers that we have been fed for the last couple of years regarding the fact that Shelton has built 2 houses per year the last 10 years is not accurate. If you look at the building permits, you will find that in the last 10 years prior to 2016, we had an average of 9.2 houses a year. That's a big difference. We also if the fee reduction is so critical, why have we had no single-family residence permits applied for in the last 2 months? I can assure you that our surrounding area, Olympia, Tumwater, has had more than no housing permits, and their fees are quite a bit more than ours. The schools, our citizens of Shelton, the people who live in Shelton, not necessarily the builders, the people who live in Shelton in good faith voted to increase their property taxes, their school taxes to build new schools. That is going to be a big hurt for people who we are constantly reminded and constantly in knowledge that they're struggling. And that's why we're trying to build a better community with limited funds. Is it fair that our citizens are paying for these new schools, including the permits and the development fees, in their taxes, and then they are still having to pay again to make up the fees that we are not getting from the schools to fulfill the needs that we have of doing those permits? It's like, it's not free, people. It comes from the general fund. The people pay their taxes, which is not as big as is many times promoted, but they are will be paying for their schools twice. I think that's horrible. Whatever it is that I'm doing here, is fees are not revenue. It's not like this money is coming in and that's money that we have to spend, and so it doesn't really matter if we don't charge what it truly costs us to do permits. The fees are based on how much it costs us to provide a service. And so it's not one of those things that, oh, we can just be generous and we're not going to have to pay that any other way. That's not true. We need to look at what we are striving for in our community. What do our citizens want from their community? Who do we want to attract to our community? A renewal program would help us with all of those things. Our citizens frequently talk about they want the city cleaned up. They want these buildings abated. They want renewal in their neighborhoods. Yeah, it's nice to have new homes in a development, but you know what? That doesn't change the property values of the surrounding houses in these older neighborhoods. It doesn't make up for a home that is sitting there with vagrants and dilapidated. It doesn't make up for the effect that has on neighborhoods. Renewal programs are a proven method of revitalizing neighborhoods and business districts. They bring about community pride, increased property values, using investor dollars to clean up problem properties, not city dollars, investment dollars. And true, a renewal program, we would be subsidizing, the city would be paying out some money for that, but the effect would be better than 12 houses in a development, which I do believe those are important, but I mean for the general public, for the general citizenry, we need those investment dollars spread around throughout our city so that we do not create areas of gentrification. Gary mentioned homeless and low-income housing last week, very concerned about that. A renewal program would make it much more attractive for entities that provide affordable housing to come in and build homes, build a apartment building. We have a couple of areas that would be targeted in our renewal program that could provide multifamily housing. There was one thing in Heidi's letter, and I think, I don't know if I misunderstood this, but it's not a 100% increase on the building permit fees. It's not like we're saying, oh, it's going to jump 100%. It's some, but it's not that amount. And finally, if the fees went up to 2015 rates, and if nobody built a single-family house, would it be better for the city to collect the full rates for the upcoming huge building projects that we know are coming? Maybe it would. Maybe it would, if we're so worried about it. Is it better for that? And nobody's saying, oh, don't charge the schools except Maryland. I am, maybe that's all I have for now.
Okay. Here's what I think we need to do. I'm not even against Plan B, but I have asked several times, we can do part of both. I mean, I think Commissioner McDowell and myself, and obviously Commissioner Moore, are interested in taking old buildings and cleaning them up and having newer multifamily built there and stuff. But the options that were presented to us, we have to make our decision. And I think that after the decision we make tonight, we need to be fairly quick on setting things in order to move in a direction. And these things probably need to be brought to us more in pieces, possibly. Maybe we could have, okay, what do you think about stock plans? Okay, I think those are a great idea. How much will that cost the city? How are we doing with our budget? Let's add stock plans. What about giving an incentive to these 3 building sites? Okay, but to generically put a lot in one option, it kind of almost forced my hand to say, well, I don't want that. I'm open to all those things, but a lot of it has to do with time and money. And by the way, I think that a building permit fee right now on a single-family lot is around $7,500. Does anybody here know if that is correct? Is it $7,800, $7,500?
Building permit
Yeah.
fee is about $1,750, I think.
$1,700? No.
Correct.
No, I meant all fees, hookup fees, everything.
I think it's around 9,
Yeah.
all told.
And now it's 9,000?
If you built, that is based on a $193,000 valuation.
Okay.
All in, you need everything.
Okay, so if you take 9,000 and you times it by 2, which is a 100% increase, that is $18,000 per lot, and that is what the 2015 rate is. So Heidi's letter was correct, it is a 100% increase.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so
I never claimed to be a math whiz.
Okay, but that is a true statement. Okay, now, to try and attempt to get emotion out of this and try to come down to making a decision. We have a motion and a second on the floor, okay? And this is just the first step. So we need to address this issue. It appears that we can vote on this now. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, so that motion fails. Now, I would, as soon as possible, come back with step 1, which is a 20% increase on the fees we had talked about, which was option A last week.
You
Option A.
can make that motion now if you'd like.
We can make that motion now.
You're
And,
welcome to.
and other things can be added. This is just the start. So at the moment, I would entertain a motion to do option A that was presented to us last week.
I will make that motion to accept the 20% increase.
And I would second that motion. Any further discussion?
How about if we negotiate a little bit?
I think, and I appreciate where you're coming from. I want to negotiate. I want to compromise. I want to get together on a playing field where we can all kind of respect what we're doing and respect one another. So my idea was, in making the motion, or having the motion brought, was let's take it one step at a time. I think weeks or months we can come up with lots of different options, stock plans or whatever.
Your negotiation, what is that, Tracy?
Well,
Amendment to the motion, maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and of course, we have to discuss this, it sounds like we all three are very much concerned with a renewal program and the possibilities for that. We know that by only raising the fees 20%, we cannot support the renewal program. So how about, I don't necessarily agree with the 3 cities that we compared fees with. Someone else out there mentioned this as well. But if we raised our fees, as has been suggested, to an average of those three cities, and maybe did just a pilot program for 2 renewal properties,
I could
or
not.
5, I don't know.
That would be 45% increase. I could not support that. But I am open to talk after we do this motion.
But my
about
concern
other
is,
things.
that staff needs to have this in order to do the 2018 budget. We have to have these numbers in the near future, and we've talked about this for 4 months.
Yeah. Well, I could not do a 45% increase.
What I would like to see is, and this is what I've shared with people, is that we still have the fees that we lowered till the end of the year. We said it was 9,000 and something. Come January 1st, 2018, I would still like to see the 20% increase stay where it is, but I really would like to see some ideas come together for renewal. And we have to figure out, I don't feel comfortable making this decision when we don't know what the budget is right now for 2018.
Ryan, can you speak to
I would
that?
point out that the budget's going to be in large part built off of revenue and expenses, and the program that we presented had both. So there were some revenue projections that would be based off of whatever you decide for the permit and fee charges, as well as some expenses. I think we proposed around $70,000 worth of expenses. So to do that after the budget's made may be a little problematic.
So knowing that if we only raise the fees 20%, we will be able to predict how much less revenue we will get from the schools.
We can make an estimate there, yeah. And one thing that we've discussed at the last couple of meetings, and Nola has mentioned this as well, is that we do not feel comfortable telling you that a 20% increase can offset the cost of doing the renewal program. So that is one thing that I would keep in mind as well.
Yes, you've been very clear about that.
So there's a motion on the floor here for, to go ahead and to expedite things, to go for the 20% increase, which was option A on last week's paper. And Commissioner Moore has asked for maybe a 45%. I said I could not, and Kathy talked about some of that. To me, it would be a lot simpler to clear things up, especially even for staff, if they had direct marching orders. Okay, at this point, we're going for 20% increase on fees, and then let that go. We can always have discussions, and we can always implement changes.
Well, we can do that once a year, is that correct, Ryan?
Oh.
I mean, I realize we could do it during the year, but it
Preferably, we do
would
it
cost a
around
lot of
this
staff
time.
time.
Preferably.
But we could do it a different time if we wanted to.
You're welcome to do it every day if you'd like. I
Yeah,
would
we
suggest
can
No,
do-
I don't want to
we
do
can-
it every
yeah,
day.
We can add or,
Me either.
yeah.
Okay, before the vote, I would just like to say one more time that this is a decision that I don't believe we need to make, especially since we have the predictable building. And I do not believe that it is fair to our citizens to have them both subsidize and pay for the schools.
Okay? So, are we ready for vote? All, yes?
Public comment.
Call for motion.
Public comment.
Public comment, because it's an action item. All right. Anybody wants to speak more about this issue? This is an opportunity, 3 minutes, and we're have to open up this motion to that option, and we've kind of talked this around to death almost. And so, I think at this point, I'm open to, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, very good. That motion passes. All right, and that concludes our action item for this evening.
And I do feel close to death on this.
Well, I'm sorry, emotions get all out there, and it's not my personal personality to try and attack or to get into fighting. It's not what I want to do. And so all I know is we voted, we're done, we're on to administration reports.
Just one thing, I'll keep giving you guys an update because I know that water and sewer rates. So that's the thing that we're talking about next. So after your decision last week, we did submit the infrastructure information that was presented to you to FCS Group, who's going to take a look at the rate update. We do not quite have the financials ready to provide to them, so that's the hang up and why we told you last week it'd be about 2 to 4 weeks for a turnaround. But as soon as those are in, we'll let you know, and they'll have all the information that they need.
Yeah, I just had a question about when we can expect the information regarding the Proposition 1 on the ballot, the fact sheet from the city.
We're in, I think, our second draft, so I would expect it this week.
Okay, great, thank you, and we'll make that available to the
What
public.
did you ask for? I was thinking of something else. I didn't quite ask for.
The fact sheet for the Proposition 1, which would be the opportunity for voting on Commissioner Council.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments for our city manager? Hearing none, our next meeting will be Monday, September 11th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.